Welcome
Welcome to the
to
Empress
the
and the
Empress and the
Fool.
Fool.
I'm Sarah Ditmore,
And I'm Caitlin Gulock.
and we're here to discuss all things magical and mystic from the perspective of two curious witches.
Doodaloo, doodaloo, doodaloo. Today, we are going to be talking about color magic, or I think this
Yes.
episode is titled The Magic of Color.
Yes.
A little bit of a follow-up to our previous episode of Glamour Magic, where we talked about all things, like makeup and self-care. And of course, like with those things, like what we wear and what jewelry we wear
Hmm.
has colors. Not to mention, also, very importantly, that it's Pride Month.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yay for
And
the
Pride,
gays!
yay for the gays. And Pride Month is very notoriously colorful. So we thought
Yes.
we'd go into just a little bit about how we can use color to kind of shift or enhance different kinds of energies, or how you can just use the rainbow for spellcraft. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really
yeah.
excited about this episode. I feel like color magic is like when you first get into witchcraft, it's like, oh, like, how can I be a witch? And it's like dress in different colors to bring in different energies.
Yes.
It's like light a candle that's a certain color. I feel like it comes up like
Yeah.
it's the very much the Instagram like witch is like, here's the
Yeah.
colors to work with for this energy. It's like constantly there.
Well, and I feel like too, one of the things that is really like popular more in the last like 5, 10 years or so is like aura photos,
Oh,
which
totally.
I've
We
had
should do
mine
like an
done.
episode about auras at some point.
I'm so curious. But yeah, I've had my aura photo taken.
Okay.
And then it's all like, kind of different energies that you bring have different colors, and
Right.
different colors have different like wavelengths and stuff. So it's like
Right.
medium science-y. And
Yeah,
like
well, and I
also
feel like go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, also in marketing too, they've done studies on like what different colors evoke different emotions that make customers
Hmm.
want to do things. So it's kind of like in this like weird middle between like art and science.
Right. Like that whole like prison pink movement where
Yes.
pink was supposed to be calming and so they painted all the walls. Spoiler alert, it didn't. It's not a thing. But
Yeah. Well, they actually banned stadiums and like athletic facilities from painting the opposing team's locker room that same pink.
yeah, I listened to like a whole podcast about it. It's so ridiculous.
I mean, I feel like just making somewhere look nice is gonna make you feel better. So like,
Yeah.
I don't. Mm.
But I do think like
Yeah.
as we talk in later in this episode, we're gonna start by going through colors and kind of like what their associations are. But later in the episode, we're gonna talk a little bit about like how to use colors in magic. And I think what's cool about color magic is it's sort of omnipresent. Like it can touch every area
Hmm.
of magic in a lot of ways that I think is really cool.
Yeah. I think it's very versatile. So
Hmm.
like when we were talking in glamour magic, it like pertains to your clothes that you wear, your jewelry that you wear, eyeshadow, like
Hmm.
so many, I mean, obviously like visual ways that you present, but then like you said, like spell work with like candles or
Hmm.
runes or crystals, like
Yeah.
a lot of I think what you said before on the glamour magic episode is like if you don't know what a crystal does, just like try to get the meaning from what color it is
No,
and
I
you're
said
pretty
that I said that when you and I
Oh.
were talking offline.
Oh my God, that was not this conversation.
We had that
Uh,
conversation, but it was offline. It's for this episode.
Never
We'll get
mind.
there.
Spoiler alert.
But
But
yeah, I,
yeah.
I do think like, ultimately, we'll get into it, but I think overview, like the magic of color is just the idea that like everything that we touch has some energy and some magic associated with it, right? And like
Yeah.
I think that the concept of color magic is that just like we think of like certain herbs have certain magical properties and certain crystals have certain magical properties and
Mhm.
certain words and entities and animals contain different meanings. The
Yeah.
same applies to color. And so color
Yeah.
magic is basically like how do we use color to inform and support our magical practices?
Yeah. And I think like one of I have like a very deep divey like um what is it, like a personal theory that I have, that I'm not going to get into super.
Okay.
It's like a whole TED talk.
Okay.
But I'm like very care like so all colors do have like a visual wavelength.
Mhm.
And so we use it actually in science a lot. So like infrared light is like the lowest energy, where violet is quite high energy and like
Mhm.
difficult to see. So it is actually like there has to be some science to it too, that like the way that we perceive colors is actually coming to us through like a measurable wavelength that
Hmm.
has different properties, that has different uses in science. Like infrared we use for like healing purposes, for ultraviolet can
Mm.
be really damaging for skin. Like we use different color lasers to do different things. So
Right,
like
right.
it's not totally like absolutely in the realm of like woo-woo stuff. There
Yeah.
is maybe like a
Well,
little touch of science to it.
and I feel like that's so much of like when we talk about this stuff, right? We always say like, oh, they each have their own energy to them. And I feel
Mhm.
like energy has become the catch-all word like in spiritual and witchy circles. But I'm always
Yeah.
like, it also like there is something we're talking about something immeasurable, like the not just like the essence or the vibe, but the actual like
Hmm.
energy of the item. And that's what you're talking about, like
Yeah.
the wavelength, you know?
Yeah. It
Yeah.
actually has like it does. It's measurable, it's scientific. It's not all just vibes, but it's like
Yeah.
kind of mostly
It's
what we're
mostly
talking about.
vibes.
What we're talking about today is mostly vibes.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, actually before we start,
Hmm.
I know you've done all of the research on exactly kind of like each color breakdown, which
Hmm.
is I'm so excited to go through. But before we start, what is your favorite color right now? Like what colors do you gravitate towards?
I hate this question because like
I'm
I work
sorry.
with
What about right
kids.
now?
No,
Yeah.
because I work with kids and it's something all the time. It's like, what's your favorite color? And I'm always just like, I this is the autism in me and my inability to and like my inability to generalize because I'm like,
Mhm.
well, for what purpose? To wear, to paint, to like to put like on my water bottle? Like it where is it going? How's it being used? What is it for? So
I love.
I'm like I don't know that I have like one color that is like my go-to color. I'm looking around because I don't have them on me, but I find that like that said, I personally love like warm colors. I wear a lot of like
Mhm.
reds and oranges and warm
Mhm.
like earthy warm colors, you know? But ironically, totally unintentionally, most of the random objects I buy tend to be like a minty, like seafoamy green. So like my water
Interesting.
bottle is that color, my earbuds are that color, and then like a sage green as well. Like I have a lot of journals that are this kind of like sagey green. And
My
so I
journal is
must,
also sage green.
amazing.
Love.
So I must be like drawn to those colors, even though I don't
Yeah.
think of them as like if I'm thinking more like decorative or more like aesthetic, I always tend towards warm colors. But yeah, so that's my very long-winded way of saying I don't have a favorite color. I just love to play with color.
You're very much like well, so we have like different colors assigned to us on our like document sheets,
Uh-huh.
and that's actually very much I don't know if it's like chicken or egg, which came first, but it,
Yeah.
it is this like very like mauve, dusty pink, kind of like almost like a terracotta-y
Yeah.
kind of
I do love that color.
red pink color that I always very much associate with you. It's like earthy, but it's like lovely and
Yeah.
like feminine, not in
Yeah.
the gendered way, but
No,
in
but
like the
yeah.
energy way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always what I associate with you. That and like,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of like greens and
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Mm.
Um,
And what is your
well,
favorite color?
my go-to is always yellow.
Yeah.
Or like this kind of like bright, like golden, rich, like mango color
Mm.
I love. Um, that's usually, yeah, like the backpack that is sitting next to me right now is bright yellow. My previous planner was yellow, like anything that I kind of gravitate. It's just like a happy, sunny
Yeah. And
color. It
that's your
makes me,
color in our document. It's like a bright
yeah.
kind of like mangoey mustardy yellow.
Yeah. But then obviously, like, I love purple.
Yes,
I
yes.
don't think I would look cute in like like yellow hair. Not gonna
Yellow
lie, I
hair
don't
is
think
a very bold choice.
it's a specific vibe. It reminds me of like Lady Gaga from the Telephone music video where her hair is like this like pop art
Oh,
color.
incredible.
What was she only Lady Gaga could really pull this
Yeah,
off, like
yeah.
not me. But purple I do really love. Yeah, my
Yeah.
water bottle is purple. My
Yeah.
earbuds are kind of a purple color.
So like
Yeah.
purple, I do feel like purple and yellow I see around and on you a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But should we get into
Yeah,
it? Let's talk
so
about it.
so I kind of made a list of the associations with each color. And these are the associations that come up when you're like, "Oh, what's the magic of each of these colors?"
Mm-hmm.
And I think these things like are sort of, how do I want to say this? There's no hard or fast rule here. Like
Mm-hmm.
these are associations that are a mix of like how we see them in nature, how we see the colors used in society and culture, and how so the meanings of these colors have really developed over time through the way people have used them. And so this is a pretty like fairly Eurocentric way of looking at these colors because that's where a lot of this information comes from of like most of the people putting together these lists on the internet are white. And so I think like you know you will find that for you, some of these associations will really resonate, and for some of you, it'll be like, oh, that's not how I think of the color yellow at all. And I think ultimately, it's so personal and context dependent of like
Mm-hmm.
what are the social and personal connections to that color for you and how
Yeah.
does that color show up in your life and how does it make you feel is ultimately what color magic is about, but these are sort of some of the traditional ways each color is used in like the witchy magical circles.
So what I'm hearing too is like it is very much just about your like cultural, personal like your
Hmm.
life, but also just ultimately it's the intention, I think, with which you're using it. And it's supposed to
Yeah.
be kind of this like supplemental tool. Like magic isn't just like I used a blue candle, so now XYZ is going to happen. It's
Hmm.
like it's supposed to enhance whatever you're
Yes.
doing. Like I'm using a red candle to enhance passion or desire or fortune or
Hmm.
luck, like whatever it is that it means to you. So it's supposed to like aid you in these things. It's not prescriptive of like,
Yeah.
oh no, you used a red candle for like the wrong thing. Like, oh,
Totally.
it's gonna blow up in your face now. Yeah, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm excited to
Yeah.
hear.
All right, so we're just gonna go rainbow order. So
Mhm.
starting with red.
With Miss Roy G.
Um
Biv.
so starting with red, we have red is an interesting one because it's in a lot of cultures associated with like lifeblood.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it's associated with very like protection because blood is a very like powerful resource in magic.
Yeah. I mean, there's like blood magic is a real
Exactly.
thing.
And if you like
Blood
have
is also
someone's
just like,
blood, you can like curse them. So like blood is a very like
yeah.
potent ingredient.
Mhm.
So it's also a potent like protection. And so red is associated with protection. And then it's also associated with all the matters of the heart, right? Because we often have like the red heart. And so you have attraction,
Yeah.
love, romance, passion, desire, like everything. It tends to be the more like romantic and passionate variation of this. When we get to
Mhm.
pink, we'll talk a little bit more about like attraction and flirting and like that kind of vibe. But red is a little bit
Yeah.
more like true love energy, right? Or like deep like lust and like passion.
Yeah.
Going
Well,
back
it
to the
makes
blood, right? It's more like
sense.
animalistic.
That's what I was gonna say. It makes a lot of sense because it's like it's such a visceral color too, and like literally and figuratively
Yes.
visceral. Because I mean, some people get like really. I think it's just such like a innate like reflex
Hmm.
of ours. Like if we see red, especially if it's in kind of like a spilled format,
Mm-hmm.
like people get really triggered. And even if it's not like blood
Yeah.
or something, it's like a spilled can of paint. There's people who could just like straight up faint because it's
Yeah.
something that we're really trained to see
Yeah.
as like a danger or something.
Yeah.
Like it's very like in our lizard brain.
Yeah, exactly. I think
Mhm.
and yeah, there's like a primal essence to red.
That's the word I was looking for, primal.
Yeah.
That I said lizard brain, but.
And then it's also
Um,
associated with like strength and courage, like warriors like painting red on their cheeks and
oh
like
yeah.
bravery. So it can be more of that, like, again, that primal version, but then also it can be
Hmm.
like wearing red to a like interview so that you feel confident and powerful because it's like
Hmm.
confidence, power, courage, like these kinds of words
Yeah.
are all associated with red as well. And we talked about this in our glamour magic, but also it's got that like that confidence, power, and passion and love all mixed together to get kind of like the seductress, like
Hmm.
sexy energy as well.
Yeah, we talked about like the red lip and things, like, or
Hmm.
wearing a red dress. It just like stands out so much too.
Yeah, it's like it's both like dangerous and appealing, I feel like is the essence of
Ooh,
red. It's like don't mess, but also like hot damn.
hot damn. The other thing I was gonna say too is that chakras are very like associated
Hmm.
with colors as well. So it kind of does, it's a slightly like different version of it,
Yeah.
but the root chakra
Hmm.
is the one that's located in your butt, basically.
The,
Yeah,
your root of your spinal column, so like
your
your
butt.
pelvic. Yeah, not really actually. It's more like is it called the perineum? Is that the space like between the holes?
Yes. Yeah.
That would be where your root
It's the
chakra
very
is.
like yeah, it's in the butt area. It's like the
Yeah.
base of your like when you're
Yeah.
sitting on the floor, like it's kind of like that base color that's associated with like belonging, strength, like rootedness, um,
Stability, safety
stability.
is a big one. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's like
so
your basic needs, right?
yeah.
And then you can also use red is often used for like banishment magic, and like
Oh,
yeah, I mean you'll see some overlaps in these because again, different cultures and different ways of associating, and that's also like the nuance here, right? It in this overview that we're going to go through, there's a lot of different colors that come up for like luck and abundance. And red usually isn't
yeah.
one of them, but in a lot of, I think, Asian cultures, red is very much a color of luck.
I was just gonna say, yeah, red is
Yeah.
like very associated in a lot of Chinese cultures. It's associated with the New Year, the Lunar New Year.
Yeah.
And so like money is given in red envelopes. Red is for like abundance and bringing in good fortune.
Yeah.
In Japan, where I'm from, red is associated like this kind of like very orangey red is associated
Mm.
with the like torii gates, which are like
Mm.
the yeah, those like kind of like shrine gates, and so they're
Yeah.
associated with things that are kind of like connecting to heaven.
Yeah.
And like red makeup is really common. I think it's a
Right.
lot of like vitality and life
Yes,
and
like the rosy cheeks and the red
yeah,
lips. It's like you're alive, your blood is flowing.
yes. And like very so associated with like gods and deities and
Yeah.
things as
Right, and
well.
like the
Like,
red robes of or like red cloak of a royal or something. Yeah.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that red, as we talk about these colors, you'll notice that like there's no one meaning to each color because they show up in a lot of different ways, but I think that
Hmm.
overall like it's associated with like the lifeblood and everything
Yep.
that that means, right? Like vitality, strength, protection, love, like courage, confidence. It is
Yeah.
that like what flows through you.
Yeah, it's not a neutral color. And I think one of the things that's really beautiful about it too is that like no matter where you're from in the world, no matter how you associate it with like, that thing of like we all bleed the same color.
Yeah, we all bleed red. Yeah.
We all bleed like we all have the same stuff.
Yeah.
So I think like that kind of visceral reaction to that color,
Yeah.
it just has to be universal, whether that's like a positive or
Yeah.
like whatever it means in that, but
Yeah.
it's still like just such a strong emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like
Yeah.
stoplights,
Right.
like we have the whole thing of like, oh,
And I
like,
think that's part of the like protection banishment aspect of it. It can like
ah,
stop energy.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that a lot.
All right, so moving on. Orange.
Orange.
So to your point
What?
about
I
to
never
your
took French.
that was pretty right. It was
Oh,
I mean
okay.
it is just orange, but it's like,
Orange.
I don't know, yeah.
Oh.
But so to your point about chakras, right? So this is your
Mm-hmm.
second chakra. It is the womb. It is the like sacral center. And thus it's also associated with like creativity and creation and like both orange and yellow get a lot of the like sun energy. More
Hmm.
so you see that with yellow, but like orange has a little bit of that too of like bright, creative, bold, playful. It's very much like a youthful color.
Yeah.
If you think of it as again that like second chakra, you have like the creation of like the womb, it's all your like sex organs, regardless of what those
Hmm.
are for you. And like the source of like birth and creation, but
Hmm.
it's also like the inner child and like
Oh.
that aspect of the self. So you have like joy and playfulness, energy, vitality, creativity, inspiration, self-expression. So it's all these like very creative, playful energies. And then it's also associated with like luck and success, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, I think like one of the things that I keep thinking about with orange too, it's like um the actual like orange, the fruit
Hmm.
too, because like I that has a lot of symbolism across different cultures as
Yeah.
well, and that's usually used as like offering. So
Yeah.
like in Japan, we put out mikan, which are like mandarins or like
Yeah.
tangerines. So we put those on like offering tables as like nourishment, and which kind of
Hmm.
makes a lot of sense in this kind of like birth
Yeah.
nourishment, like this kind of more like comforting, like womb
Yeah.
feeling. And I know in the Netherlands too, we actually had a roommate
Hmm.
who was Dutch. And I think one of their practices is to put like tangerines in shoes on Christmas. I don't know if
Yeah.
do you know what I'm talking? Am I getting
Yeah.
that
I
right?
think that's right. And I know, like, my mom used to get an orange in her stocking every year because that's
Yes.
very much like a traditional Christmas gift because it's like vitality and abundance and wealth because it is like a sweet thing that is rare to come by.
And it's usually for kids too. I feel
Yeah.
like adults would be a little less stoked about an orange. Like, I mean, I'm an adult, I'm still stoked
I was
about an
gonna say,
orange,
I
but
think like back in the day, it was like a
yes.
very good gift to get.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I also think one of the things that's interesting, kind of harkening to our glamour magic, orange is a color that people very more frequently than not say is their least favorite color or
I
like
love
don't.
orange.
I love orange too. It's always kind of seen as this like risky fashion choice or
I'm
like
literally wearing orange right now. I wear orange
I
all the time.
know.
I love
I
orange.
love it. I love it. I think it's a great color, but it's like so in do you know what I'm talking
I
about
do,
though?
I
Like a
do.
lot of
I
people are
hear that
just
all the
like
time. And people will be like, "Oh, I like every color, but not really orange." And I'm like,
yeah, like what's the problem with
okay.
orange? What did it do to
I
you?
think it's because capitalism killed creativity, and no, everyone's lost their connection to creativity.
That's the
Orange is
tea.
intimidating to them.
It is. It's too powerful.
It's too powerful.
Hmm. I do.
Be a
I
rebel,
mean,
wear
I love that color.
orange.
Wear orange as I wear green.
I'm wearing orange
Be
though.
like Sarah, wear orange.
So and I
Yeah.
mean even this, like we're talking about orange and we're immediately like so joyful. It's such like a fun, joyful color, I think. And
I
like
feel like it's so bouncy.
it
Like,
is. It's a very like playful and I think yeah, I think most of the energy associated with this word is very much like playful, like youthful, inspired, joyful, creative, but then because of this association with like the wealth symbol of the orange, you also have the like
mhm.
luck, success, abundance
Yeah.
aspect of the color as well.
I like it. I think it's probably just like so bold and so visible that people are like scared to use it as
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
But like not gonna lie, I love an orange eyeshadow. I think it's
Yeah.
cute.
And I think there's
Mm-hmm.
also like so many shades of orange, but
Mm-hmm.
that it can like you can mess with it however you want. If you don't like a bright neon orange, get like a burnt sienna vibe going on.
Oh, okay, Crayola. Okay.
Okay, so from there we get to yellow, which is another contentious color. I feel like very few people think they look good in yellow, and like we were just talking about how yellow hair is a bold choice, and so
Mm-hmm.
yellows are like these kind of bright, bold colors, and I think it's funny that both of them are associated with like this bright, bold energy.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, yeah, that makes sense. But
Yeah.
and so yellow has the association with the sun. So because of that, it has a couple of different ways of being interpreted or used because the sun, like we have the sun as like a source of life and a source of vitality, but you also have like historical representations of like sun gods and the power of the sun, and the sun
Mm,
being also like in the tarot, right? It is the illuminator. It is what clarifies what is true, so you see things clearly.
mm,
Um,
mhm,
so when you take all of that together, you get a lot of kind of mixed up meanings of yellow. So we have like clarity and focus, right? Because it helps you see things clearly. It helps you like see where you're going. And so it's also associated with like sharp intellect, because of that like clear vision.
right.
And then it's also associated with like manifestation and hope because of like the dawning sun and like fresh light,
Oh,
right?
definitely hope. Yeah,
Yeah.
like this kind of like sun is coming out, like parting of the clouds,
Yes.
which is interesting because like the sunlight is like yellowish,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's just because we've been like the sun in like kids' drawings and even in like my drawings now, the sun is
Yeah.
always yellow, but it is
Yeah.
just like white,
I know.
which
Well,
I
and
always
if
think
you
is
think
interesting.
about like, artistic representations from way, way back, it
Hmm.
also has to do with like what you had available to you with natural dyes, right?
Right.
So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
what is a natural dye that creates a color that is bright to like the sun?
Yes.
Yellow, you know?
If we don't have white
Yeah.
or we want to like stylistically interpret it, it's always yellow. And it does
Yeah.
cast like a yellowish light, but I've always thought that
Yeah.
was interesting. I'm like, it is
Yeah.
just kind of like a white hot ball
Yeah.
of heat out there. Like it's
Totally.
not really like banana yellow out there, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, the
But
energy
yeah,
is still there though.
yeah, exactly. And so it's very much that sun energy, and so you get that like the hope, the optimism, the renewal of like a
Mhm.
new dawn, which
Mhm.
also can be associated with manifestation because um it is like the creation of like the vitality that the sun brings to something, the new life of a new
Mhm.
day, like the cycles of the sun. And then also confidence because of that like vitality piece, right? Of that like bright,
Yeah.
energized like sunshine.
I also think of like sunflowers as well. They
Yeah.
like stand up so tall and strong and like face where
Yeah.
the light is. So it's all very like hopeful, kind of
Yeah.
strong message. And then for like chakras, it's the solar plexus,
Right.
which is about your kind of like confidence
Yeah,
and
your
like
strength, your power, like,
it's like
you
sticking
know,
your chest out and,
yeah.
saying what you mean
And
and
it's also
um,
manifestation. Like it's the
yeah.
fire, it's what transforms, it's what creates. Like, that's also all related to the sun and to fire energy is like what you can create or manifest or do with your magic.
I feel like I kind of like knew I'm like, oh, I know I'm a more energetic person, so yellow kind of makes sense for me. But the more we talk about it, I'm like, just like being fiery and optimistic. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that like makes a lot more
It's a
sense.
very Aries color.
I think like one of the things that does come to mind that's interesting though with associations with yellow is also like kind of conversely, which is super weird that it's like also kind of a synonym for cowardly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if this is
Does
like I
that
don't know
come
where
from like a racist place? I feel like it
that's what
could.
I was really afraid. I think it was so what I associate it with being in medicine is like jaundice. Is like
Okay.
somebody having a sickly appearance. Um that like when people turn yellow or it's usually like green, but you can see like when people are yellow, something's like wrong with their liver. Um so I don't know. I was gonna say
Okay, I'm looking it up.
I was like, I'm really worried. I'm like, does this have offensive
I
roots? And I
don't
don't
think
know.
it does. I'm looking it up, but I vaguely remember thinking that and then researching it at one point and being like, oh, interestingly enough, it's actually not racist. Usually that research goes in the other way. Uh, usually when you're like, this can't be racist, it's like, oh yeah, it's all racist. Um,
Oh,
so
I think I found it, maybe.
So it's not completely clear when yellow came to represent weakness or immorality, but during the early Middle Ages, yellow was commonly used to okay, so during the early Middle Ages, yellow was commonly used the ways we were talking about, like the sun and like, bright divine light and all of this. And then later in the Middle Ages, things began to change. At some
Mhm.
point, and no one knows why they chose the color yellow, but during the Albigensian Inquisition in the mid 13th century, heretics who were heretics were forced to wear yellow crosses as a part of their penance. So the yellow cross marked you as a heretic. So that's how it became associated with like an
Oh.
immoral, cowardly, like someone you don't like.
So one of the things that I'm finding as well is that
Yeah.
there's also certain animals that have yellow on their stomachs. So when they
Mm.
turn over and they're like submitting or they're
Oh.
cowardly, they're showing a yellow belly.
And that's where you get the term
Um,
yellow-bellied.
yeah, and that's where you get yellow belly. Yeah, so
Okay.
I actually like just looked it up really quickly and I saw a Reddit post that was like, I never wanted to use it because I was worried that it was racist. And I was like, oh my God, girl,
Same.
same. Yeah, because you never freaking know.
Yeah, and we do know that yellow has been used like racially towards Asian communities. So
Hi.
like, yeah, you're like, yes, I know very deeply and personally that truth.
Well, it's so funny too, because I feel like it's like when you're like, because I am Asian, like when and I do have like an olivey, like
Hmm.
golden tint to my skin tone. So like when I'm finding foundations or whatever, and I'm like in Ulta or Sephora and I'm like, oh yeah, I just need something that's more like yellow toned like me, and they all like everyone gets really
Right.
uncomfortable.
They're like, oh shit, are we allowed to admit that?
I'm
Oh.
like, well, it just is a color, like it is a color of the
Yeah.
skin. It's just,
Yeah.
again, like we talked about in our episode that we recorded yesterday, the words and intentions that we use with them, that's what really
Yeah.
matters. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's really, it
Right.
doesn't bother me, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't use it for anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I think, that's not really how yellow is used in the magical world, but that is like a cultural
Mhm.
context that exists, which is interesting.
Yeah. Because it's like so just the opposite.
Yeah.
It's like it's yellow belly is like kind of this
Right.
idea of like cowardliness or like flipping on your back and kind of like
Right.
submitting,
Yeah.
whereas like what we're talking about is so much like hope, confidence,
Yeah.
strength,
Yeah.
like standing up, being louder.
Right. And I think that's a lot of where like your social cultural context comes into play is like how are these
Mhm.
colors used?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
So moving on to green. Green, I feel like for me, and I'm interested if you feel the same or not, is like the one that you get introduced to first with magic. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do like
Yes.
an abundance spell with my green candle. Like
Well, I feel like it's like green is just such like a like
it's the most
easy like
intuitive. Like
nature, trees, like grass,
yeah, it's a very
plants.
prevalent color in our
It's
world.
it's the kind of like even throughout currencies, it's kind of that symbol of
Hmm.
like usually like money currencies.
Yeah.
Not everywhere, but
But
like
like,
kind
yeah,
more universally.
especially as America
Um,
becomes what it is. It's like the American
Ew,
dollar's ubiquitous. And
gross.
so, yeah. And so, yeah,
Uh,
so there is this natural connection of like green with abundance. And obviously there's the money aspect of it, of like paper money in America is green, but
mm-hmm.
also the more like empress version of abundance, right? Of like
Yeah.
overflowing nature and like the thriving garden and plants ripening and fruiting and like
Yeah.
growth is a so because of that it's like abundance, it's like the fertility and the growth is a part of it too, though, because it
Yes.
has this like natural connection and it's not just like the
Mhm.
making money piece.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
just realized I'm wearing a green sprout on my head, so
You
it's very
are.
apropos to this little conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's a major one, like abundance, growth, money, wealth, fertility. It's also associated with like health and well-being. Again, because of this connection to like the earth and like the growth of plants. And a healthy
Yeah.
plant has vibrant green leaves, and a dead plant has brown leaves. And so it's like
Right.
healthy, happy, like vibrant. And just working with earth, like when you're working with the element of earth, you're like, if we're working with yellow to work with sun or fire, you're working with green to work with earth, right?
Hmm.
And then it's also
Yeah.
associated with like new beginnings and fresh starts, again, because of this like plant symbolism.
Yeah, like the little sproutling coming
Yeah, like
out
you're the
and like this
little,
like yeah, and it's also like such a sign of like spring. It's like such
yeah,
an indicator of season too.
yeah,
So like yeah, like you said during spring we
yeah,
have little like sprouts coming out and then
yeah,
during like the middle of summer we have this like verdant like
yeah,
green
exactly.
and fields and things and then as kind of like the season the season changes to a time that's like a little bit harder, where
Yeah.
we're harvesting and things are like not surviving the winter, we see that green go away. So it kind of makes a lot of sense in what we see in
Yeah.
cycles that
Yeah,
like green is
exactly.
associated with like spring, summer, life,
Yeah.
you know. That's like when you have all of your crops and you see how
Yeah.
well you did.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And I think yeah, I think it's just like we see it all around us and so it makes sense. I mean, I live in Tahoe, so like quite literally all around me is green. It's just
yes.
like it is such a hard thing to ignore that of course it's gonna like inform how we think of that color.
Yeah.
And like evergreens,
Um,
right, are very much a symbol of like life and vitality and abundance because
mhm.
they never die, right? And they're
Yeah.
always like growing and living. And so I think that's also part of that association.
And associated too with Sarah's favorite holiday, Christmas.
Christmas.
Yeah, where you have those like evergreens and that kind of like
Yeah.
enduring symbol of life in the
Yeah.
middle of a
And when
time
you look
when,
at like Yule traditions, the evergreen is like brought into the house to like bring life force into the house during the season of death and like protect
mm.
everyone. Yeah.
So also to offer like a little bit of like a converse um meaning,
Yeah.
one of the things that's really common that people say too is green with envy.
Yeah, yeah. And like we didn't really talk about this with red, but red is also associated with like anger
Oh,
and rage.
yeah, seeing
Yeah.
red.
Yeah.
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 Um,
I do. I
I'm
think
kind
it's
of I was gonna say I'm kind of curious about like green with envy. I just always associated with it with like this kind of like shadow side of wealth and abundance.
yeah. I mean, look it up
Yeah.
because you also I think you also have like green like sickly. When someone looks
Yeah.
sick or puke and like if someone's about to puke, they have like I'm picturing the green emoji with like the puckered lips.
Yes. Yeah.
And I do think
Um,
like part of the research, like the for the context of this episode, we're focusing a little more on like how colors are used in magic. But I think
right.
any of these colors, like you could do a whole episode deep dive into like the history of how the color's been used and how the context of the color has changed and like
Right.
what it's become today, you know?
Yeah, I just think it's really interesting too that like there's a lot of what we're talking about is kind of like almost the opposite, right? So like
Yeah.
wealth and abundance is very much I think it's the same with like tarot cards, right? Like we
Right. The
have the
shadow
upright
side. Yeah.
the shadow side of things is like that there are these associations that do have some sort of like societal traction to them.
Yeah.
So it's and as we're going through this, I'm kind of finding that it's really interesting that they seem to reflect the exact
Yeah.
opposite. Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently, Green with Envy came from Shakespeare, which
Oh,
so
good
many
old
things
Billy.
to good old Billy Shakes. Um, but yeah, I think
Fascinating.
it's an interesting other side of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, and even like the kind of idea of like sickness from green is
Hmm.
like that what we're talking about is abundance and happiness and health,
Yeah.
and it's associated with the heart chakra, which is all
Yeah.
about like, peace and belonging and kind of like filling your cup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, where I think it's like, yeah, it's interesting. Every color seems to have like a little bit of a shadow use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, so with blue, talking about chakras again, we go up. Like blue is the throat chakra. So it has a lot to do with like speaking your truth, how you communicate, like communicating clearly. It has a lot to do with like loyalty and honesty and clarity
Mm.
of like intention because of that like throat chakra association. Um, it's also associated with forgiveness.
Oh.
Blue, if you think of blue, it's like Mother Mary is associated with the like a pale, she wears like the pale
Oh
blue
yeah.
robes and like
Yeah.
so it's associated with very much like a maternal energy, the water, like the spirits of water and like cleansing. So you have that whole
Mm-hmm.
aspect of it. It's also associated with like peace and calming and ease. It's a very like peaceful, again, it's got that sort of like soft maternal energy.
Mm.
Um, it's also associated with like spirit work because in a lot of traditions you have haint blue, which is using the certain shade of blue. If you like painted it on your house or you used it for different talismans, it keeps haints, which is like the Appalachian way of saying ghosts, away from you. And so it's like repels negative spirits. And
Oh.
like I have a blue glass ball that's like a witch's ball hung in my window because it's meant to keep evil and negative energies out. So you have that aspect of it as well, again, which I think is this weird dichotomy, right? You have it's a very like soft, maternal, peaceful, speaking your truth, like,
Hmm.
you know, communicating with clarity, and then it's also like, fuck the ghosts.
Yes. Yes, and even we have like the evil eye, which
Yeah,
is
the
really
evil
common
eye
in
is
kind
also
of
that
Middle
like
Eastern
rejecting.
traditions.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is like, trying to capture negative energy so it doesn't come to you. But I'm
Exactly.
wondering if that really just has association with like the sky, because that's where like the heavens,
Mm.
where we kind of like symbolically look at where like spirits are or heavens are.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, and also water traditionally is considered a
mm-hmm.
portal for spirit, and that's like how spirit travels is
Hmm.
through water. And so,
Yeah.
a lot of cultures associate water with spirits as well. So I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's also like it's associated with like dream magic and spirit work because it has this sort of like portal energy to it.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
actually because I'm a bit of an art history nerd, so there's actually a series of paintings by Miro. I think
Yeah.
it's a three-panel blue series that he was mostly inspired to use because of that association with spirits and
Hmm.
his other side. So he actually like uses they're really famous painting. He uses them predominantly to like evoke that feeling
Yeah.
of this dream world, something like bigger than what we
Yeah.
already have. And I feel like that makes so much sense because it's like the ocean is blue and it's so beyond what we can
Yeah.
see. Like it's kind of this expansive, like the unconscious or
Right.
like something beyond our reach. So
Yeah.
that kind of like ethereal nature of blue and that connection like makes a lot,
Yeah.
that expansiveness makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think once again we have that dichotomy of like blue is like it's got the Mother Mary energy. It's like healing,
Hmm.
calm, peace, ease. And then it's also our color for like sadness and grief and like
Yeah.
depression and being blue and like is all like a very like sad feeling, right? And so I think that's a an
Yeah.
interesting like we keep finding these dichotomies that are really interesting.
Yeah, like comfort and grief is like
Yeah.
really
It's all part of the
I
same
mean, there,
coin.
yeah, totally. This is like very cool. I didn't really like think that we would find these like
I didn't
little
either.
like weird because like you said before, we're really focusing on like what you can use these for, like what
Yes.
associations we have. So for
Not the
what
history of each of these
practicality,
words. Yeah.
but at the same time, it's really interesting to find that they do have like just
Yeah.
totally flipped meanings.
Oh my God, yeah. I feel like you could easily, like I said this already, but I feel like you could easily do a full episode on any one of these colors on like the
Just a
history and
single
context of
one.
how the color
Yeah.
is used.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on, we have purple, like Caitlin's
Purple.
hair.
Oh,
And like my Mystic Auntie room is all painted purple.
yes.
Which makes sense because purple is associated with the psychic side, right? It's astral
Yeah.
travel, intuition, inner knowing, divination, and all things mystic. I think purple is like you went on a whole nerd rant about this in a past
Yes, I
episode,
did.
about how purple is not like an actual color. It's our attempt to understand like the perception of different wavelengths.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think that purple was also a color that was very rare as far as like clothing and paint production for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so again, yeah, like big art history nerd, purple is also such a a symbol that's associated with also like abundance and
Yeah.
wealth. Um, much more in like the like like royalty
I was gonna
rich
say I have like
wealth.
royalty and coronation on my list. Like it's very much like
Yes.
the monarchy is associated with purple.
Yes, so purple is a very, very difficult color up until recent time. It's a very difficult color to recreate
Mm,
in nature. We have a lot of things in nature that are purple, but
yeah.
to actually get like the pigment of purple is very,
Right.
very difficult. So there's actually a period of time, I think, in like the Renaissance, where in Italy you see that there's a symbol of being able to actually like afford really nice materials for your house or for your art is where they use this stone called porphyry. that has
Okay.
this very purple quality to it, and they used
Oh.
it to display like I can afford it. Like, I can afford this really cool purple stone. So it does
The
become
original
associated.
crystal girlies.
Yeah, the original crystals, they're like, you won't believe what crystals are in my floor tiles right now. Um, you won't believe what I like, asked an artist to make a bust of me out of this purple stuff because it's really expensive, it's really
Yeah.
inaccessible.
Yeah.
So it was just like straight up a symbol of like I have more money than you.
Yeah, and I also think to your what you just said of like it's very expensive and very inaccessible. So you have this association with wealth, but I think all the association with like mysticism is a bit of that like inaccessibility of it. If it's kind of
Yes.
unknown, we can't recreate it, it's hard to capture. And so it has a bit of
Yeah.
this like mystical quality to it that then
Hmm.
has now become associated with all of the mystic things. And it's also the third eye chakra, which is like your intuition, seeing into other realms, your psychic gifts. So it's very much like, yeah, we're just putting our hands on our foreheads, like for an audio medium. It's fine. Um, and so it has both of those sides. It's also associated with like inner knowing and wisdom. You also think of like wizards are often depicted in all purple because they have that like connection to mysticism and magic, but also they're like deeply knowledgeable and wise, and so it has a bit of an association with like deep wisdom as well.
And it makes sense to, yeah, like what you said before, kind of that inaccessibility, that like there is not like a dearth in a negative sense, but there is
Yeah.
this kind of like limited like you can't, it's not in abundance.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's also how spirituality, I think, in a way, like should be
Mm.
too. It's like an
Yes, we
accessible
want
path.
spirituality to be inaccessible.
That's not what I mean.
That's what you heard. That's what Caitlin said.
No.
Caitlin's gatekeeping spirituality.
Cancel Caitlyn. Oh my God. No, but it's like it's this thing that should be available as a path for all of us to
Yeah.
go on, but like being able to like reach, whatever this idea of kind of being spiritually realized or
Hmm.
spiritually kind of like enlightenment.
Yeah.
That kind of idea shouldn't just be like right there for you to get.
Yeah.
Like spirituality is a journey of understanding. So it also makes sense that it's kind of this like more unattainable like finality that not
Yeah.
everybody gets to, and it's not just
Yeah.
there. You have to kind of like work to get
Right, it's
there.
not easy.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And I think too it like has this very like dreamy midnight quality.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of this or like a lot of kind of interesting like celestial phenomena like kind of
Yes.
aurora borealis, although it's a million colors. Like one of the main ones is like purple, and it's kind of this like fleeting thing,
Yeah.
so it feels like this kind of really special thing to like capture
Yeah.
as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
I love
I
that.
love it. I love it.
So,
um
leaving the rainbow, we are now into pink.
Yay.
So pink, as I mentioned when we talked about red, like it also has this association with like love, but it's more associated with like the softer, like I want to say like girlier, but like not in the gender way, but just in the like I'm thinking God, did you ever have
Hi.
any of those board games as a teen or a kid where it was like you would like try to like win the best date in like who like the dating game board games?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. I instantly thought of like MASH though.
Yes,
And when you
same
said dating
energy.
games,
It's
yes.
like it makes me think of like teen nonsense and like play like and just like the like sleepover energy. It's a much more like
Yeah.
fun approach to the like deeper themes that are explored in Red. It's literally like a watered down Red, right?
Yeah, I mean it's like innocence, it's kind of cotton candy
Yeah,
fluff.
yeah. So you have like attraction and like flirting, like flirtation and like this kind of like soft, playful approach to romance.
Like Valentine's Day. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
it's also, yeah, it does have a level of association with like innocence and like
Hmm.
tenderness and softness. It's like a very, it's a very gentle color, quite literally. Like it's whitened, like red. So it's like a
Hmm.
softened version of a stronger color.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, so it has this like ease and like softness and youthful tenderness to it. It's also associated with fertility and growth because of like pink
Right.
flowers and buds, and it's one of the colors associated with Venus, so you have a little bit of that energy in there.
A little bit
Um,
of like intimacy.
yeah,
Mm.
exactly.
Yeah.
Connection with other people, whether it be romantic or not. Um,
Yeah.
and then it's also a color associated with like compassion and soothing energy. And I think this is where you get that like
Mm.
concept of the prison pink, where it was like I mean, this is like pseudoscience. It has since been proven to not be true, but there was some like psychology of like, oh, looking at this certain shade of pink makes people calmer. And so it became like a color associated with calmness and soothing and compassion. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of the essence of pink. And I think
It's kind
like
of like a, by the way, it's like a very much like a Pepto-Bismol pink
yeah,
color that we're
which
talking
like
about when
does
we're
not
talking about the
seem calming
prison.
to me.
No, it kind of it's called Baker Miller pink, by the way. If you wanted
Yeah,
to look it
those are the
up.
people
It's
who
like a
like produced it.
yeah, it's a really weird
Yeah, like bubblegum pink.
and I think too, like for me, working with pink as like I don't know, as like a adult and as somebody who like fought with gender a little bit
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like,
yeah.
pink is also so associated with like girlhood,
Yeah,
and like, the like, fucking gender reveal cakes is like, oh, this is
right.
like baby pink color, it's gonna
And
be a girl, and it's all
it's
like
funny
Barbies
to me
and
that like this, yeah, there's something about pink that has that stronger because we didn't bring this up with blue at all. But like the minute we started talking about pink, I'm talking about like teen sleepovers and bubblegum and like flirting.
yeah.
Like it has like a girly association that I feel like has stuck way stronger than the like blue is for boys energy.
Yes. And I think it's really interesting. And I think you may have gone through the same. I know that other people have gone through this like kind of evolution, but I think having like pink thrust upon you as a gendered color with certain
Hmm.
expectations and a certain like kind of vibe to it, it's like very
Yeah,
like tutus,
yeah,
ballerina kind of, yeah, hot pink, this like Barbie color.
right.
And then going to a phase of like, I was wearing my like charcoal, like kind of almost like raccoon
Totally.
eyes eyeliner and being like, fuck you, I listen to punk and I don't like pink anymore. Pink is stupid. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
and
don't
then,
tell me what to do.
yeah, like that's so like, what XYZ. And then
Right.
kind of coming into being an adult and being like, oh, pink is fun. Like
I
it
love
almost
the color
has,
pink. It's
I love
light. It has a
pink.
playfulness to it.
I love having pink hair too. Like
Yeah.
when I'm not purple, I'm pink. But I think it's this like almost pink has this energy of being like a misunderstood, kind of like
Like a little bit of a
underestimated
rebel.
feeling.
Yes, because I was
Yes.
just thinking like I was thinking about how we keep talking about how like pink is red with white added and how so it's like a
Mm-hmm.
watered down or like
Yeah.
softened version of red. And I was thinking I always think of pink as like secret power. It like comes off as like so sweet and approachable, but like Barbie's had more jobs than any of us. Like she's the most talented woman in the world. And like,
Right.
it's like it's this like, oh, I'm so soft and approachable and sweet and actually secretly like I've got all the power in this situation.
Electric pink, like a hot pink, is
Hmm.
so powerful. It's so bold. It's so like, I don't know. I think it's such like a very, it stands out. I think it just like
Yeah.
for me, it has so much symbolism of like reclaiming something that,
Yeah.
because it's a cool color. Like
Such a good
it's a great
color.
happy color, but because of this like weird
Yeah.
gendered societal expectation of what this color is, it has so many conflicting feelings about it. So I feel
Yeah.
like, yeah, it just if you're using it in spell work, I feel like pink
Yeah.
is so much of like a I'm reclaiming this like rad
Yeah.
color because it's a great color, not because of being underestimated as being too soft, too sensitive,
Yes.
too XYZ.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hot. That's why they call
Hot.
it hot pink.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love pink. I think that like I think that pink, I mean all colors have this, but I really think that pink like can really go has like a whole spectrum as far as like
Hmm.
a pale blue and a dark blue are very different, but they both still feel like blue. And like a pale
Yeah.
green and a dark green both still have the same energy. But like a pale pink and a hot pink are like
Yes.
totally different vibes. Like, and
versus like a
so
mauve dusty rose color.
yeah, and like there's like you can play so much with like okay, I'm playing with the themes or the energies that pink is associated with, but I'm taking this flavor of it, right? Which I love.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's oh, I love it.
Yeah,
I
we
love it.
stand
Reclaim
pink.
pink. Yeah, reclaim pink. Like, don't. I mean, I feel like also just don't. That's the lesson from our childhood is like, don't knock it just because it has a certain association with it. Like,
Yeah.
pink can be punk, pink can be soft. Any of these
Pink can
colors
be
can really be
gender
anything.
non-conforming.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, so moving into the neutrals, we have black.
Our witch's color.
Our witch's color. So it is associated with witchcraft and the
Hmm.
mystery, the unknown, what's hidden, what's in shadow, what's
Hmm.
inaccessible. It's, also associated with like unconscious and like what hides beneath or like the unseen. And because of all that, it's also associated with magic.
Hmm.
And like we don't really play around with the whole like dark magic or black magic, white magic. That's a racist bullshit idea. Um, but it's
Some
more just associated with like the craft of magic, right? So we've talked about
Mhm.
other colors that are associated with like working with spirits or celestial magic or like
nature magic.
nature magic or psychic gifts. Black is
Mhm.
more associated with like spellcraft, like using your hands to make a charm, make a talisman, make a
Mhm.
potion. It's like hardcore magic.
Like capital M
Yeah,
magic.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And the goths, of course.
Yeah. And we love you.
And
We love you,
that is
goths.
that is another element of black is it's associated with like death because it's associated with all of like
Yeah.
the unknown, the shadow, what we don't see. Very
Yeah.
much associated with death. And it's also
Hmm.
associated with like protection and specifically like warding, like if you're warding yourself from whatever,
Yes.
black is really highly associated with both of those colors.
Like wearing obsidian or onyx or
Yeah.
something is supposed to and it's also like I think, when we talk about also the scientific part of it is that,
Yeah.
like the white is the presence of all colors, black is the absence of all colors. But it
Yeah.
like when we're looking at it practically, and I think about this a lot because my dog is black and it's summertime, but like
Yes.
it absorbs thing like
Right.
energy so easily. So actually, like kind of linking the practical to this like
Yeah.
magical protection idea, it does make a lot of sense because it does attract a lot of
Yes.
that energy and as like a kind of yeah
Exactly.
protective idea.
Exactly. And I think, yeah, there's the aspect of like black absorbs the energy and so that it can't
Hmm.
get to you. And then also it's like a barrier, right? Like it's like nobody can look or see through a black screen or like a
Yeah.
black curtain, right? And so it's like a barrier between you and the world.
Yeah, or like the night is
Yeah.
terrifying if you don't have light or you can't see
Yeah.
anything. It's really hard to discern. Or the other thing that I think of too is like dark water
Mm-hmm.
is really like it's like
Yeah.
very viscerally terrifying too. You're like, I don't know how deep that is, and it gets black and you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like what is
Yeah.
down there? And so it's like intriguing and kind of like compelling,
Yeah.
secretive, like a
Yeah.
little
And secretive is a
dangerous.
good, I think
Yeah.
that's, if you're doing magic with colors, like black can be really good if you're trying to do something that you kind of want to keep secret, right? Like it's a little
Hmm.
bit of a masker, a hider, like it keeps things personal, it keeps things private.
Yeah.
On
Love it.
the other end of the spectrum, we have white. And there is Again, we aren't doing an episode that is like the history of each of these words and how the colors have been used because there is a little
Yes.
bit like we just talked about how black is like death and darkness and the unknown, and then white is like divinity, harmony, peace, and it's like there can't not be some racism there. Like, like there's like
Come on.
white is purity, black is witchcraft. Like, there's a little bit of
Yeah.
like some religion and race happening here. We're not ignoring that. That is just not the intention or scope of this episode.
Yes.
So I guess I
Because
just, yeah.
I think like what we're talking about, I obviously, yeah, there is that like lens and it's very legitimate, but like when we're talking about black and we're talking about these like natural phenomenon that does reflect that, it does make
Exactly.
sense. Like dead plants, dead flowers go
Yes.
black. Like bodies and things that
Ash and things that
decay,
have burned.
ash,
Yeah.
things that decay, all, like, so we're associating it with this kind of like natural idea,
Yeah.
or like more connecting it to natural phenomenon rather than like societally generated
Yeah.
kind of racism ideas. And like white is associated with like cleanliness,
Hmm.
like, um,
Like you're
I
gonna
mean,
see any stain on a white piece of fabric. And so I guess that's the thing is
exactly,
we are
yeah.
talking about specifically white, like paper white, not skin white.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because and just I think like I want you to talk about like the association as
Hmm.
well, but one of the things that I keep on thinking about is like, yeah, linens and
Yes.
like being able to like clean linens, they come out a little bit like
Yeah.
brighter, whiter.
Yes.
And it has nothing to do, in my mind, and what we're talking about, it has nothing to do with racism
Yeah.
and supremacy or whatever. Because
Yeah.
that sucks. We're talking about something else.
Yes. And it is true in many cultures that had these traditions well before racism became had the
Hmm.
impact it has today.
Yes.
Um, Even then, people were often wearing white as a color of like divinity because of this like purity of like there is
Hmm.
like you cannot you cannot dirty a white cloth without it being seen. So to if you're dressed in all white
Hmm.
and it's clean, then it's showing that you've like put in the effort and you're showing up for spirit in like a very clean, pure, present way. So it has that association. I mean, of course, it also has the association with purity because of like purity culture and baptism and that whole aspect.
Hmm.
But so you have purity, you have divinity, healing, peace. It's also associated with like harmony, truth, and it's a spiritual protector. So in Spiritismo, which is the lineage that I've been training in for a while now, white is believed to like basically purify the energy as it comes in so that if you're working with like spirits you wear all white when you're doing channeling so that only spirits who are like divinely aligned and like well can come in and no like evil spirits can get through. um
Yeah.
yeah, so that's white. And then white is also a great catch-all. So if you're doing a spell and you don't have a red candle, use a white candle. You don't have a green candle, use a white candle. Like
Yeah.
white can kind of like Caitlin said, white is the presence of all colors
Hmm.
scientifically. And so you can use white to stand in for any color in magic as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you've seen Pink Floyd's album cover of Dark Side of the Moon, that's exactly kind of like that idea of the prism catching
A great
all.
way to explain
Um,
it.
yeah. So white light can be scattered into all of these. So it is an all-encompassing idea. And kind
Yeah.
of what you were going on is, I think that like white also represents just like honesty as well.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, like whatever is on the cloth, you're gonna freaking see it because of the
Yes. It
contrast.
shows things as they are, like the truth piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think like spiritual leaders or like, yeah, people
Hmm.
who are practitioners in kind of spiritual realms wearing that just kind of displays a sense of like, I'm coming as I am, like no, n no other things. Doctors actually, wearing white
Yeah.
coats is a sign of
Yeah.
kind of like
Right.
trustworthiness.
There's no blood on
Um,
me. Look.
there's no blood on me, and it's kind of like just like almost like an authority and
Yeah.
academia and like of knowing. And I
Yeah.
think that transfers to spirituality too. It's like somebody who's learned,
Yeah.
somebody who's done the work. I personally have ideas about doctors wearing white coats. I think it's incredibly impractical and dumb.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not a doctor. My job is really nasty though, and if I wore white, my day would be over. I used
Yeah.
to have to wear white actually
I
for clinicals.
I
Like,
don't know
no.
when I will learn. I have like a good 50% of my closet is white. Like my skin tone looks very good in white. I love wearing white. It's like such a light, fun color for me.
Yeah.
And I'm also the klutziest person you'll ever meet and have never not spilled anything I've eaten or drinking. And so I don't know why I live in this world that I have created for myself, but it's a nightmare.
I love it. I love it though. I
Everything I
mean,
own
I
is white
think
and it all has stains.
honestly, to be real though, like I think just like a white t-shirt looks so good on literally any skin tone that
Yeah.
wears it.
I tell
Like,
Charlie all the time that I think like a white t-shirt with jeans is the hottest look.
It
Man
is
or
the
woman
James
or
Dean.
non-binary, like everyone
James,
looks
it's the
good.
James Dean look.
Just a white shirt
Yeah.
and jeans. We all look hot.
Yeah,
Should
we
I
all
just
look, let's all be hot.
should we just like should I just make everyone at my wedding dress in white shirt and jeans and make it a cult?
Done. I'm
Should I turn
there.
my wedding into a cult initiation?
Yes. I'll
Maybe.
bring the robes. Um, so one of the other things I
Which
wanted
is,
to
I
mention,
think,
oh,
no, go
go,
ahead. Well, I just think
no.
that speaking of the duality, like
Yeah.
white is like spirituality and purity and divinity, and also it's associated with cults, like all the cults in their white robes, and
Yes.
like the corruption of spirituality.
Totally. Absolutely. Like, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's this like kind of like false idol almost thing of like
Yeah.
this like signaling of something that you're
Like, we
actually
are pure because we
not.
wear white, and it's like, well, it's
It's like,
weird because you're all wearing white.
and you're saying things that are really hateful.
Yeah.
Like, make it make sense. That's horrible.
Uh,
But the other thing I associate with white as well, and I think like using it in spell work is, and what you said about like, hey, if you don't have a specific handle for a specific thing,
mhm.
is the idea of possibility, like the blank page, the
Yes,
like
yes.
Natasha Bedingfield, the rest is still
I
unwritten, like, you
literally,
know?
as soon as you said blank page, started singing that song in my head. So,
But yeah, it's like this idea of like this
there
uncharted.
is a
It's like
blank
kind of
page
the
before you.
oh, you open up the door. Okay, well, it's like the two or three of wands. It's like this
Yes,
idea of just
yes.
about to embark on something. It's the opening a new journal and like the possibilities of what you're going to use it for.
Yeah,
So I think it's also like as much as it is like truth and purity and harmony and all of these peace, the white
yeah,
dove idea of like,
yeah.
all of those things. It's also just like, oh, a new thing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is
Oh,
really cool.
cool. Okay, so then we have brown. So, taking us back to Earth, it is also associated with the Earth magic and Earth energy. But whereas green is more what grows from the Earth, brown is the actual Earth, right? It's the dirt, it's the soil. And so it is
Mhm.
stability, it is grounding, it is rooting into the Earth. It is also associated with like all the kind of Earth energy that we see in more of the context of like less of like earth goddess and more of like earth like the bull, like the determination, the like practicality, like good at making decisions, like very like thinks things through, logical, like structured, like that kind of earth energy, like the rocks and the dirt.
I immediately thought of Taurus, which is
Yeah.
like one
I
of the
thought
earth
of
signs.
earthbenders from Avatar.
Hell, yes. I love because it is just a very like yeah, like when we say like salt of the earth kind of person or
Mm-hmm.
a down to earth person, like or a grounded person. We're talking about
Yeah.
all things that are just so like based in very practical things.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
And like fertility as well. Like it's also all very like
Yeah.
foundational, nutritional, like
Yeah.
fertilizer,
Right. It's
poop.
not the ripe, it's yeah, exactly. It's not the ripened fruit, but it's where the ripened fruit comes from.
Yes.
Yeah. Or,
Yeah.
poop.
Or poop.
Yeah. Okay, and so then we get into gray. So gray is a neutralizing color. It is sort of considered like a balancing color. So if you're like just
Mhm.
don't really want to mess with any outside energies, I wear gray sometimes as like a protection because it's sort of like it's not like the absence of any color in the way that black is, but it's like almost like it's kind of doesn't have an energy. It's like, oh, it's gray. It's like everything is neutral, everything is gray. There's nothing like, when you see like
Yeah.
movies or cartoons where they try to depict like everything like that makes up the world, all the like joy and energy and sadness and everything being removed, it's like the world becomes gray.
Okay, like the Powerpuff Girls episode. Did you ever watch that?
I'm sure I did, but it has been a while.
Oh my God. So I was obsessed with the Powerpuff Girls. And there's this one where like this evil person takes all the joy and color out of the
Yes,
world and it goes grayscale.
exactly.
It just
Exactly.
it feels way more neutral than black or white though, in a really weird way
Yeah.
of like
Yeah,
it's
it's like
kind of
it's
just
so plain. And
yeah.
so it can be used to neutralize
Mhm.
energies. It can also be used to like shield or balance or cancel. I wrote down in my notes, it's like in Dungeons and Dragons when you can, if someone casts a spell at you and you can cast counter spell, which is like
Yeah.
pushing the spell back at the person it came from, like that's the energy of the gray. It's like, no, nothing's getting in here. It's like a little
Yeah.
bubble. Um,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
it can also be associated with like invisibility because it's like you're neutral. You have no
Smoke and mirrors.
yes, like there's nothing
Yeah.
about gray that like catches attention. So it's very easy to like
Oh.
slip through. So it's a great, again, for that sort of like secretive hiding, like wanting things to go unseen, or like it can be great for
Mhm.
like if you like don't want to get attention from someone, like invisibility kind of work or like neutralizing energies is very much the gray.
I like that. I like that a lot.
And then our last two are the metallics, silver and gold. Because they are metallics and they actually are metals more than colors, they are associated with the divine because, silver and gold were considered like very valuable and still are. Uh,
Yeah.
and so silver is the moon and gold is the sun. So silver is
Hmm.
associated with all the like quote unquote divine feminine energies, and
Hmm.
gold is considered with the like quote unquote masculine and all the associations with like sun and moon, lunar and solar.
Hmm.
Silver is associated with the goddess Hecate, who I
Hmm.
know we've
And
talked about,
Artemis.
and Artemis, all the moon
Yeah.
goddesses.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. The moon bitches. We love
Yeah,
them.
our moon girls. I think is it Diana is also a moon goddess.
Diana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's associated with goddess energy. It's also associated with like purity and like femininity, but in that more like divine aspect of it.
Yeah.
And so it's
And
also
there's so
associated with
many.
like power and like
Yeah.
magic because those are associated with like the quote unquote divine feminine.
And there's so many like references to like the silver moon.
Yes.
Like it's just such a, I think like a
Yeah.
literary like really common thing for us to
Yeah.
say because like it is kind of this like and it's not gray. I think like yeah, we just talked about gray and then silver just does have a different quality to it
Yeah.
of being this kind of illuminated, like shiny, this
Exactly.
celestial,
Yeah.
like it has this
Yeah.
kind of specialness to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
And
like I
sim
love I was gonna say too, silver's like also associated too with like water as
yeah.
well and like that also being associated with divinity because of like the way that water and light reflect on each other.
Yeah.
It's like has this very like ethereal goddessy energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then with gold, it's the inverse of that. It's the solar energy. It's also so it's associated with like the god or creator figure. It's associated with like wisdom, luxury, prosperity, and wealth because of like
Mhm.
gold being, the OG source of money. Um, crowns, you still have a bit of that like royalty association with gold as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
those are
love
our
it.
colors. And I think we just wanted to do a little overview of like, okay, now that you know what all the colors are and how to work with them or what they represent, like what do you actually do with a color? Like how do you use a color in magic?
Yeah.
So one of the things we talked about in a previous episode was glamour magic. So it can be, the color of eyeshadow you put on, lipstick, what clothing you wear, what jewelry you wear, what ribbons you tie in your hair, like those kinds of things. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and then you can also use it for like home magic. So, if you wanted to paint your walls a certain color, put up to set certain decor, certain blankets, like to curate an energy in a certain room. Um, and then we have like kind of more just lifestyle, I guess. So, I do this where each of my notebooks for different things is a different color. And I always try to like match up the color of like, okay, well, this is for like my magic work. So this is my purple notebook. And like, this is for business stuff. So this is going to be like my blue notebook. And like, kind of
Hmm.
align that. So you could do that with any sort of tool that you use in your daily life. Like Caitlin, you mentioned that your backpack is yellow, right? So you could be
Yeah.
intentional about like, oh, I want to carry this energy around with me everywhere I go, or like keychains, phone cases, like the things you adorn your life with. And
Yeah.
then like actual spell work, right? So using a candle in a spell, writing things on colored paper for a spell, like um whenever you're working with ingredients of a spell that you don't actually know the meaning of, so like herbs or plants or crystals, you can just go with the color. So if you're like, well, I don't really know what this herb does, but the flower's red, or like, I don't really know
Yeah.
what this crystal is for, but it's purple, you can use that color as like or like a starting point for these things.
Yeah. I mean, the one that I think of is like lapis lazuli is
Mm-hmm.
for better communication. And
Yeah,
that's like kind of what we talked about. Or citrine,
exactly.
like yellow citrine is for like energy and creativity.
Exactly. Or like amethyst for intuition. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And black stones just in general are protection stones. So it's like you can
Hmm.
really anything that you would use in a spell. And I think the most common I see are like candles, crystals, and like what you write your spells on,
Hmm.
are all great ways to incorporate color. Also like what you wear while you're doing a certain spell.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think those are kind of it's really anywhere that you're doing magic, you might can add color to it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else
Um,
in that, anything
Not
else in
in
regards
that.
to ways to use color magic?
Not really. I think the other thing is like I use a lot of like different colored pens or colored pencils to like evoke
Mm-hmm.
different ideas or feelings or like even in small ways like highlighting different things in my like that thing when you're in like elementary school or middle school, you're like
Yeah.
the like blue binder is for science, the red
Totally.
binder is for like you can still kind of like use that idea for marking different things on your calendar or like
Yeah.
if you're gonna have a meeting about some finances or something, maybe like writing it in green
Yeah.
and kind of being intentional about like may my bank account have many more zeros than it does, like
I love
yeah, whatever
that.
whatever that is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's just an overview of kind of colors and their meanings and how to use them in magic. And because this episode is coming out during Pride Month, and because color is such like an important symbol of gayness and pride and queer culture,
Mhm.
and because we're both raging queers,
Yeah.
we thought it would be fun to end this episode with a little overview of the original flag and the pride flag and sort of what the identity and meaning of those colors me are, partly because it's just fun and partly because like that is color magic.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Before we get into it, can you let me share my
I
screen?
did.
Give me. Oh, you did? Wow, you're so on it. Okay, get ready.
Okay, if you're not watching on YouTube, first of all, there's gonna be a little presentation. We'll talk through it all, but it's worth watching if you'd like to see the little presentation Caitlin created. And even more than that, Caitlin is currently fanning themselves with a giant fan printed with the progress flag, which is the newer version of the pride flag.
Which I will be talking about, but
Yay!
yeah. So, Pride is associated with rainbows. I actually call all of my kids who associate as being like any kind of level of queer, I call them my rainbow babies or my rainbow children, or
Yeah.
I call myself of the rainbow variety. When I'm not wanting to just be like, I'm gay. Um, so let's see. I have a little presentation. Okay, so this is the original Pride flag. It
Hmm.
features 8 colors, and the one that we usually see now is just 6. So this is the original one. It was made by Gilbert Baker, and it was first flown in the 1978 Pride flag and the first, kind of Pride Fest that we had in San Francisco on June 25th, which is part of the reason why this is Pride Month.
Yeah.
So a little bit about Gilbert. He is also of the rainbow variety. He was in the military and honorably discharged, and then taught himself how to sew when he was out. His bestie, Harvey Milk, was like, we really want a symbol of gay pride and gay support. So, inspired by kind of the recent hippie movements and the kind of like color and brightness of the rainbow, he created this flag.
Wow.
Yeah. So the originally, we have from the top, they're all just, horizontal bands of color. The top is hot pink, that is associated with sex.
Hell yeah.
Red is associated with life and vitality. Orange was in there for healing. Yellow represents sunlight and optimism.
Hmm.
Green represents serenity, nature, and growth. Turquoise represents art and magic.
Hmm.
Indigo represents harmony and serenity.
Hmm.
And violet represents spirit and soul.
I
Uh,
love right
yeah.
away how many of those are overlapped with the definitions we talked about.
Like instantly, like all
Yeah.
very, very similar. Yeah.
Cool.
So then we have, oh, what's next? There we go. So then actually hot pink became too expensive of a fabric.
It's
So
too
we
hot.
basically
It's too
it's too
sexy.
hot. Yeah, so we couldn't afford it.
Everyone was like, "Oh,
So
this color is associated with sex. Gimme."
so for about a year this was the new pride flag. And then
Which, if you're
sorry.
listening and not watching the presentation, is the same pride flag just without the hot
Oh wait.
pink. So it's red, orange, yellow, green, turquoise, indigo, and purple.
Yeah. So then we're like, we need to make another change to it. So like, let's have this as our kind of more standard pride flag. It's still made by Gilbert Baker. But this was the one that was released in 1979, which I
Got
actually
it.
think is so much older than I thought it was. So it's the standard six color red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple.
Yeah,
And he wanted it to be kind of an even number of
got
colors.
it. So
There was a
when,
lot of controversy about this. There was a
yeah,
lot of people who outlawed this flag being flown anywhere because it represented the kind of like gay agenda.
right, right.
Yeah.
So when they went from the eight to the seven to the six, did they just drop the meaning of the other two, or did they redefine the meaning of any of the words,
So they kind of
colors?
consolidated the two blues. So the pink kind of went away.
So sex got taken out of it.
Sex got taken out, but I think it's kind of absorbed with red
Right,
because we
life,
talked about that as well.
vitality, yeah.
Yeah, life, vitality, sex. And then the kind of turquoise and indigo got consolidated into a blue, which I think it does still just hold the meaning of serenity, but I kind of lament the loss of art and magic. So we're just
Yeah.
gonna throw it in there too. I'm gonna say that's what it means
I'm
too.
gonna say that the combination of all, the full rainbow, is what gives you
Mhm.
the art and magic.
I love that. Well, and then like the soul spirituality aspect of it
Yeah,
can be also encapsulated in the violet, the purple color.
yeah.
Um, so then just really quick, we have to where we got to now, we have a combination of these kind of iterations of different flags. So the transgender flag was actually made in 1999 by a trans woman named Monica Helms.
Mhm.
The blue is associated with being a boy, the pink is associated with being a girl, and then the white is said to be associated with intersex, anyone in
Mm,
between. So that celebrates trans people and trans
yeah.
rights.
And if
And
you've not seen the flag before, it's a white stripe in the middle with a pink stripe on either side of it, and then a blue stripe on top of those. And all of these
Mhm.
stripes that we've been talking about are horizontal.
Yes. So then we have the Philadelphia Pride flag, which was made in 2017 by actually like a firm, like it wasn't one
Oh,
person.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That if
they
that doesn't
actually
encompass the change in society from the 1970s to the mid 2000s of like in 1979 it was or
Mhm.
1978 it was just this artist and his like politician friend and then like in 2017 it was a company.
Yes. So they actually included one black and brown stripe at the top, and then the six colors that
Mhm.
are part of that kind of like standard rainbow
Mhm.
flag. And the black and brown stripes are meant to represent black and brown communities that are frequently marginalized, even like just period. But
Yeah.
also within the gay community, they are still being marginalized, and they still face like another layer of inequality
Mm.
that the rest of the gay community can like needs to be aware of and
Yeah.
be supportive of. So these two flags were smushed together and made one final baby called the Progress Pride flag. It was made by Daniel Quasar in 2018. So we have the background is the six rainbow colors, so
Hmm.
red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. And then there is a chevron of like just a little like triangle coming out from the left side, including the black, brown, light blue, light pink, and white
And
stripes.
that's
So it
going
makes a
from like
triangle.
the outer edges to the inner edges. So the white
Yeah.
is in the center, and then going outward, it's the pink, blue, brown, black.
And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who say it looks like the Puerto Rico flag.
Oh, fascinating. Yeah, I guess. But that one's all like blue and red and white, but
Yeah,
same
that one.
format. Yeah.
Yeah, they say it's like the gay Puerto Rico flag, essentially. So actually one of the new meanings of this, so this was just to like encompass all of these communities within the queer community that do need to have some extra attention and do need just like an extra mention because although the queer community as a whole has made some progress, a little less recently, but as the gay community has been receiving kind of a little bit more like social support and acceptance, there are still communities within that who are especially vulnerable and when all of these intersect in being queer, being a racial minority, and being trans, those people are still at the greatest risk of violence and the greatest risk of bigotry and
Hmm.
um, marginalization. So I did not know this before, but another meaning of the white stripe being included in this is to also honor those who are living with and those who have passed from HIV/AIDS because that was one of the greatest kind of public health and political disasters that was absolutely targeted in
Mm.
homophobia. So, needing to acknowledge our history,
Yeah,
celebrate what we have and who we have in our community, and also
that's
acknowledging that we need to protect those who are a little bit more vulnerable than we are. So, Sarah and I are very fortunate that, we get to celebrate our pride very openly
yeah.
and don't really face a lot of violence from it. So, I guess it's really important, I guess, to like acknowledge where you are on that spectrum of privilege and continue to fight for
I
those
love that.
who might not have as strong of a voice and who might not feel as safe in the community.
I love
That is my
that.
presentation.
And I don't, it, from what you're saying, it doesn't sound like this was intentional, but I also love that, like, the chevron of, like, the trans flag and the people of color representation is like an arrow pushing into the original
Yes.
pride flag, which I feel like is also honoring that, like, so much of the queer rights movement has been driven by trans people of color, and, like, they have
Yes.
driven forward this effort. And so I feel like even though it's not necessarily intentional, it's like a little nod there as well, which I think is really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, especially, yeah, Black trans women
Hmm.
especially have been so instrumental in getting to where we are now
Yeah.
and are so key in like so much of the literature we have and
Hmm.
so much of like the progress of the movement and are responsible for like kicking society's butt into saying like what are we doing? What
Yeah.
are we doing? This sucks.
Yeah.
So I love that too. Like they are the ones who do need a lot of accolades and a lot of credit for
Hmm.
getting us to where we are.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
this is cool. Yeah. And so I think all of this is to say that, like, the magic of color is, obviously you can work with any color to do magic, but it's also just acknowledging and representing the way that, like, color can be used as like symbolism, and it has like depth and meaning and history to it that you can use not only for like your spellcraft at home, but for like
Mhm.
political statements and movements and like pushing back and fighting against the social norms and the status quos for like a better, more equitable future.
Yeah. And I think it is absolutely color. Here, I'm going to stop sharing this really
Yeah.
quick. I think it is absolutely color magic. The fact that, like, I always make sure that I wear a rainbow pin and I
Yeah.
actually have a badge for my, like, nursing badge
Yeah.
that has all of those progress flag colors on it. So
Mm.
I think it's a form of magic and communication of
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm somebody who's trying to learn and be a safe person in this. So
Yeah.
that is magic in itself. So if you want to communicate that or you want to show your support, I think this is absolutely witchcraft approved Empress and the Fool approved witchcraft and spell work to wear those flags to show that you are in support of these people, that these people
Yeah.
exist and are visible in our society, and even if you're not of that community, just wear those
Yeah.
colors, wear a little trans pin.
Yeah, I love that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think with all of this, I would love to hear from all of you about like what color means to you, what colors resonate with you, which how you use color magic in your life. So go to sarahdittmore.com/podcast to fill out our little contact form and let us know.
Mhm.
Also, if you like this podcast, share it. If you know someone who needs to know the history of the queer flag, share it.
Please do.
Leave a review, leave us 5 stars. These things matter, these things help.
Yeah.
And be gay.
And go forth, be gay. Go forth. Um,
That's you can't talk color magic without talking about how important it is to be gay.
Indeed. I think we probably talk about how important it is to be gay on every single episode.
Hell yeah.
To end this episode, we're gonna go back to a deck that we just reviewed recently, which is
Yes.
the Rainbow Tarot deck, which is
Could
actually
not think of a more
made,
inappropriate deck.
yeah. So it's actually made with like the queer community in mind. I don't wanna, well, I was gonna say I think it was made by people in the queer community, but don't quote me on that because I haven't read the booklet since the last episode. So, my idea for a question is what kind of I guess like what's a good card for informing us on our color magic journey? Like
Yeah.
what lessons can we learn and what can we keep in mind? Um, beep beep beep. Oh my God, I like keep on forgetting that it's like holographic and beautiful,
Ugh,
and I'm distracted by shiny things.
such a beautiful deck.
That's really weird. I usually like hover my hand over, but this one's just like popping out
Okay.
to all the rest, so. Ooh, we have the chariot.
Ah, I love that.
Yeah, right. I
I
like that the little like it almost looks like the little like horses are like winking at each other.
Yeah. So right away, I think with that, it's like there's an energy of like the chariot is about like like focused action and like moving forward with purpose. And so I think that there's a little bit of like using color magic can support you in like pursuing your goals and whatever you're trying to create, whatever you're trying to do, like it is a way to put that energy into the world and like own that energy with like confidence and clarity. And then I also
Mhm.
think there's a little bit of like kind of what we were talking about at the end there with the history of the pride colors. There's a little bit of like using colors about more than just like playing with color. It's also that
Mhm.
like color is a potent and powerful energy with like deep meaning. And so like using
Mhm.
color for like purpose and like taking action in like meaningful ways.
Yeah, the thing that keeps on like screaming out of to me about that card is intentionality.
Yeah,
And like being
exactly.
very deliberate about your use of things because the chariot is a lot about like not holding the reins but controlling what's around you by like your kind of force of will rather
Mhm.
than like force of physical struggling.
Mhm.
So yeah, just be intentional about your
Yeah.
decisions and like what you do can really change the course of where things go. Yay.
Amazing. Well, great. I think, yeah, so go have fun with colors. Thank you for joining us. And as is above,
So is below.
as is within.
So is without.
Thank you.
I love you and be gay.
I love you and be
And
gay.
blessed
And blessed
and
be.
blessed be.
Bye.
Bye.